Hi everyone. So this video will cover, this is just example 3 from the Intro to Logarithms notes. So just so you can kind of keep track of where we are, this is the page in your notes you're looking for, Logarithms 9.5 and 9.7. I'm doing example 3 in a separate video because you're going to have a no calculator quiz next week that looks very, very much like these examples here. And I thought it might be helpful to review just this example, when it comes to that time next week. So the thing to keep in mind about logarithms is what are they really asking you for? When I ask you for the answer to this, log base 2 of 8, what question am I asking you? I am saying to you, like if this were equal to x, and we did kind of that circle method thing that we already learned, what I'm asking is 2 to what power makes 8? Well, that's one we've been using a ton in the last couple of chapters. So I'm hoping you know that one, and so this answer would be 3. X equals 3. Okay, so then the next one I'm asking you, 5 to the power of what makes 1 over 25? Okay, so right away, I notice that I have a fraction here. And the way that we work with, or the way that we get fractions using exponents is by using negative exponents. Okay, we know this has to be negative to get this thing to flip over like that. Okay, so, and then I think to myself, well, 5 to what power makes 25? That would be 2. So this would be x to the power, or x equals negative 2. Okay. All right, so this one is a little bit harder. This next one is saying 64 to what power makes 8? And I know you see 64 and 8, and instantly your brain wants to think that the answer is 2. And you're close, but you have to be careful here because we're going from 64 down to 8. And we need to think about what type of exponent takes a number and makes it smaller. Okay? That was when we did fraction exponents. So a fractional exponent is what cuts a number down into its pieces. And so this would not be a 2, it would be a 1/2. Okay? Kind of a way to help you with something like that if you were stuck is if you can't figure out how to go from 64 to 8, think about how do you go from 8 to 64? 8 to what power makes 64? Right? That answer would be a 2. So then go back the other way, it's just the reciprocal of 2. It would be 1/2. Okay, so you can think about it that way. Okay, this next one, log base 9 of 27. This is one of the harder ones for sure. Okay, because I want you to keep in mind that what I'm really asking is 9 to what power makes 27? And again, I know your brain is going 3, it must be 3. It is not 3. 9 to the third power is not 27. Okay, 9 to the first power is 9. By the time we hit 9 to the second power, we're at 81. So it's somewhere between like 1 and 2, all right? But it's not an exact whole number here. So here's what I'm going to do with this one. I'm going to rewrite both the 9 and the 27 as powers of 3. Okay, I'm looking for something they have in common. They both have powers of 3 in common. So 9 is going to become 3 squared. And that is still being raised to the power of x. And then 27 I'm going to write as 3 to the third power. Okay? And then here, the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this 2 and this x together. So I'm going to make it 3 to the power of 2x equals 3 to the power of 3. And now that their bases are the same, now that these two numbers are exactly the same as each other, I can say that this exponent must be equal to this exponent, right? These two things have to be equal to each other. So then I would just go over here and say, well, 2x must equal 3. Divide by 2, and I get x equals 3 over 2, or 1.5. Okay. I want to caution you about something here. Remember back here when I first set this up, I said we know it must be somewhere between 1 and 2 because it's somewhere between 9 and 81. It happened to work out to be 1.5, which is exactly halfway between 1 and 2. I don't want you to get lazy about this. I don't want you to get to the point where you're thinking, oh, it's got to be halfway between these numbers, because it depends on these numbers. It depends on how I set this up. It might not always be exactly halfway in between. It might end up working out to be, I don't know, 1.2 or 1.4, something like that. So just know that it's not enough to just estimate. You have to kind of go through this process to calculate. Now, I'm guessing once we do a couple of these, you're going to be able to jump straight from a problem like this over to something like this. You know, you're going to be able to jump some steps in between, but you do have to take the time to calculate. Okay, so this next one's weird, right? Because it's got a letter down there for the base. And so if I do that, if I set it up kind of the same way we've set up all these other ones, what I'm really asking is b to what power makes 1? Well, b could be anything, right? But what power always turns something into 1? That's the question you really want to ask yourself here. Okay, there's some power that no matter what this is, the answer is always 1. And that power would be 0. Okay, so any log of 1, it doesn't matter what the base is, any log of 1 is going to be 0. And then this next one. This next one is probably the easiest problem you'll be doing, but people do get stuck on it. People get kind of, bogged down by it. But here's what this is saying. This is saying 3 to what power, so if I have this equal to x, I'm doing this thing, right? 3 to what power is equal to 3 to the 5th power? Well, these are both 3's, right? So 3 to what power equals 3 to the 5th power? X must be 5. It's as simple as that. So if I ask you for the log base something of that exact same number, if these two numbers match, your answer is always just going to be whatever that exponent is. Okay, so that's a nice shortcut you can take with logs too. Okay, so we will be practicing and reviewing for this part of your quiz later on, and you've got some good ones on your homework assignment for tonight. But this would be an excellent video to refer back to when we hit that no calc quiz, just to make sure that you know what you're doing. Okay, especially since we'll have spring break in between. All right, that's it for this lesson. Thanks a lot for watching.